Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, that'd be me, or that would be I. Be cool. How you doing? Welcome to the show. It's a Wednesday. I say that only because I do know that once you don't have a regular schedule, like a Monday through Friday, have to be at work, yada schedule, which I suspect some of you do not have any longer, it is easy to lose track of what day it is. It is, if there's nothing delineating them. Anyway, just in case you're confused, it's Wednesday, okay? It's July 19th, and that I wouldn't have known unless I just eyeballed the computer screen. I got lots of thoughts in my head today. I don't know if that serves as a warning, but my head seems very active, which is good. I keep writing things down. I got scraps of paper all around here. Remember to do this, I just, that's good. I feel wholly alive. Now, where to start? I was just thinking about going to an independent bookstore, as I refuse, no matter how convenient it is, I could get these books in a second, on Amazon. I won't do it. I just, damn it, won't do it. And there's two books that I want to buy copies of. They're two books that have moved me, and I've given away to people. I didn't intend to lose them, but I've given them to people, where you say, oh, you've got to, and then you can't remember who it was, and then whoever it was, they've not given them back. And so I'm bereft of two books in particular, one of which I know I've talked about before. It's called The Lost Art of Healing. Which reminds me of something else. Okay. And that was written by Harvard professor named Dr. Bernard Lown. And I have spoken of him. It was one of the more amazing people I've ever had the privilege to meet. And would there be more like him? Anyway, it's a little teeny book. Both these books are little, The Lost Art of Healing, which I want to give to some doctor friends I have. And then there's a book called Breath, which is all about that, our breath, and how we don't really do it right. How we've gotten away from using our lungs like we should. And it just sort of opened my eyes up, because breathing is such an important thing. So those are the two that I'm going to get, because I was thinking I want to give like Breath to a few people I know, because I think they'd really appreciate it. And I want to give The Lost Art of Healing. And then I had this thought: giving books to people is fraught. And the reason I had that thought is because, for one thing, if you give a person a book, I mean, they may feel that they now have to read it. And that is the idea. I mean, you think, oh, they would benefit from, or they would love it. And yet on the receiving end, they might not really want to. And so gift giving, which I've talked about many times, is potentially fraught in that, yes, somebody, you give this book with the best of intentions, and yet on the other end, it's received with a, oh God, with a sense of obligation. That's what receiving a gift can leave you with, a sense of obligation. And that obligation can be to actually read the damn thing when, frankly, it's just not where you are right now. So, the reason I thought about this is when I was visiting my mother, I noticed on the table in front of where she sits on the back porch, there were books. Oh my God, piles. And they'd been there for a long time, but I, for some reason, really started looking at them. And they're these massive hardcover books. Like one is called Einstein. So it's obviously some definitive or attempt to be a definitive biography of him, and others that are equally weighty, literally and figuratively. And I said to my mother, "Mom, who gives you these books? You don't buy these books, do you?" She says, "No, people give you books." And I'm thinking, who would give like an 800-pound, 800-page, I think more correct, hardcover book to, so even not a 90-plus-year-old woman? I mean, it's just, even lifting it could be so I'm thinking that giving people books is maybe a very sort of dangerous thing to do. Again, fraught. So that was one thought I had today. And, beware of friends bearing books. That's all I want to say. Okay. This is something I've been wanting to share with you. It's one of those, it's one of those things that concerns me. And it has to do with healthcare. One of the things when you get advanced in age is, of course, you find yourself in the grips of the medical establishment, which unfortunately is not a comfortable place to be. And you all know how I feel about the state of health care. What a joke in our country. It's been monetized, corporatized to the point where, the patient is just, I think a widget would fare better, probably. So I have a great deal of animus, I must say, toward healthcare, and a great deal of sympathy for those who labor within its construct, because people who are drawn to a field of caring, who end up in a construct that gets in the way of their being able to care, are in a difficult and sometimes, I'm sure, demoralizing place. Okay, and I've talked about that. But this I came upon because this I hadn't known. This is something new. I was aware that like big hospitals, like here, UPMC, are gobbling up doctors. You used to go to a doctor and a doctor hung out a shingle, like a lawyer hung out a shingle. Somebody got specialized training, took them a while, and then they go into business. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. You join a practice of already existing people, and the odds are that practice has already been gobbled up by some much larger entity, like these hospitals. And it is then run like, a corporatized system. And the doctors laboring within it do not have control. They really do not have control. They're mere employees. Some of them making a lot of good money. Some of them not so much. But they're just employees of this huge, cold, uncaring, corporatized structure. What I didn't know is what I'm about to share with you, which is that one of the latest things that is going on is that private equity firms, those are guys who are already in the money and they're out to get more as quickly as they can, right? Private equity firms are buying up doctors and medical groups. And here's the thing, you might not even know it. You might be going to a doctor who you think is sort of a, local, or, you've known, well, even my parents went to this practice. That practice may in fact be owned by a private equity firm, which has bought it to squeeze every penny it can out of it. Private equity firms don't take Hippocratic oaths. And in recent years, private equity firms have been gobbling up physicians' practices. And they've been forming powerful new medical groups all across the country. And the thing is, you don't know if that's the case. Names don't change. Anyway, people are starting to look into this, people who have the courage to look closely at the horror that has become of our medical care system. And one thing that becomes clear, unsurprisingly, that when these physicians are bought by private equity firms, the prices go up. And when private equity firms control even 30%, let's say, in a given market, in a given city, you will see the cost of healthcare up double digits up. Now, what they really like are the specialties that bring in the most money. So they're going for dermatology, gastroenterology, and they're buying these guys up. Now, I have to tell you, I have some sense of what happens when private equity comes in and does this to a industry, whatever, a segment of the economic sector. That didn't make sense. Because I've seen it happen in journalism. Private equity started buying up little newspapers, local newspapers, and they literally destroyed them. Their intent was to destroy them. They didn't do it because they loved journalism. They saw money in literally destroying them. They first of all squeezed the life out of them. Jobs are lost. They end up selling everything in the place, from the typewriters to the chairs. They destroyed just untold numbers of local newspapers, which of course helps destroy a sense of community. And so to me, private equity firms are just evil. They're just evil. They produce nothing but destruction. And of course, big bucks for you. So you have hospitals buying up doctors. You've got insurance companies buying up the doctors. Now you have private equity firms buying up doctors. And what they do is they purchase these companies using debt. They don't put any money. They buy them using debt with an eye to then reselling them. These are just, oh God, in a few years, quick turnaround. The damage they did, I don't know. So make no mistake, if you have a doctor that is not owned by either a hospital or a corporation, then man, you are one lucky person, and hang on to that doctor because it is a rarity. I don't know how any of this should be legal. People are saying, do you realize that these guys, these pirates, these rapists and pillagers, they come in with no intent of healthcare, intent on making a quick buck, which obviously can cause harm to patients, to people. And the little research that's been done on private equity ownership of health care institutions like nursing homes. Oh, I love nursing homes. Nursing homes. You see that when they come in, staffing levels drop, of course. They use antipsychotic medicines instead to just sedate the poor souls who are in there. It is Dickensian, nightmarish. So just want to say, the headline of this was, by the way, who employs the specialist you use? Increasingly, it's a private equity firm. Yeah. Okay, I have a call, apparently. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, I want to agree and disagree with you. I see what you're saying, but I think the people that work for those places are compassionate, and I think they do a good job. I had an incident about 3 weeks ago. My cable on my garage door broke. It sliced my head open. Yeah, 8 stitches, and I broke the bone, protected it doesn't have to be surgery or anything. From the EMTs to the hospital to the physician's assistant that treats me,
Sure.
It's a professional job, and they're very compassionate, very caring. And from the CAT scan, everybody was caring. And so I think the people are going to still do their job like they do. It doesn't matter who runs the show. They're going to do it because they want to do it. That's the way it is. I always thought that about that field. They're in it because they want to be in it. A lot of them. I mean, you got some of them, but the people always do their job. Even the firemen came to my house. I mean, it's just I was like,
yeah. It was good
great
to see your tax dollars at work there. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. That's scary. And I agree. And when I go on these rants about healthcare in America, I'm not talking about the people.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm talking about the system that they're made to operate in, which gets in the way of their being able to care like they want to. Just saying. Believe me.
Right. But, the Mayo Clinic operated on kind of like that. And I don't know now But at one time they had like the doctors were hired like employees. They did so many surgeries. They had got paid so much money, and I think if the healthcare was run like that, to keep the costs down, because there are, like you say, many doctors are making more money, and then you got administrative people making lots of money. I think it could be run right, but it's just too much greed involved in it. You could have employees, but
yeah, always is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Greed, that's the name of the game. Hello.
Yep.
America. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. Thank you for that, and I hope you feel well and quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay. Bye. Oh man, yikes. Yeah, it is. It's something when you call 911 and you need help, and the first thing that happens is a fire truck shows up, because that's happened for me too. You think, there's no fire here, guys. How come the fire truck's here? Sure gets your neighbor's attention. Okay, so here's what all of that was to say that I had 2 visits to medical professionals in the last week, and 2 very enlightening kinds of experiences. In one, I was told by I'll just say nurse, that she like moonlights sometimes, going to, I was talking about this corporatization. She says, yeah, I go sometimes, besides this job here, she says, I do go and work at some of these places that are run by like private equity firms. And she said, I got to tell you, something happened the other day where the doctor was saying to this woman, you'll need this, that, and the other thing, and blah, 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 blah. And she said, I was sitting there thinking, oh, she doesn't. She's saying, this doctor was telling this woman she should have this, that, and all of which was going to enrich that practice, none of which, she said, was truly necessary for this woman, for whom this could be an economic burden. And she said, I so wanted, when she left that woman, she said, I wanted to run out into the parking lot and say, no, don't feel like you don't have to do that. She said, of course I didn't. But then I felt, and I've talked about this before, that she felt guilty that she had been a party to what was not a true giving of care. Okay, that's one thing I heard, just want to say. The other thing was I have a doctor, a specialist, who is one of the rare breed that has refused to be bought by anybody. These people are so rare. The experience you have as a patient when you go to them is so different. This doctor, sometimes you wait a while. It's true. That's the one negative. But you know why you're waiting a while. Because she's seeing another patient, and she's doing with that patient what she's going to do with you, which is listen, which is engage in a true, eye to eye. And this doctor is so caring that when you're in her care, you immediately feel safer and better. There is none of that typing around on a computer, none of that. She always has another person with her who's doing all that for her, who then later gives you unbelievable amounts of information. She's an educator, this doctor. She's remarkable. And she is exactly who Dr. Bernard Lown was talking about when he wrote The Lost Art of Healing. She is a healer. And I said to her when I was leaving, I said, I just want you to know how appreciative I am of you and what you do. And it is so rare. And I said, I don't have any other doctor like you that is not bought. And she says, well, it does come with a price. She ain't getting younger. She says she spends as much as 3 to 4 hours after patients just dealing with, I don't know, paperwork, stuff like that. Incredibly, when you go see her, you go in, there's no big intake thing. You go in, and when you're leaving, you walk out. You don't stop. There's no pay. You walk out. She takes on the burden of all of whatever, I don't know. I can't even imagine. I always leave there feeling as if I've been seen, literally. And that is not how you feel when you go to regular doctors who are owned. I don't care how good they are, how caring they are. They're working in a system in which you are simply another widget. You're on an assembly line and you are not individualized. You are not a person. So I just wanted to say that it is such a difference. Barbara has sent me this. Joaquin Castro, that's the congressperson, was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer last year. Oh, God. He was in Spain. He was being driven somewhere, and the driver hit a boar. B-O-A-R. Bad. B-O-R-E, so you wouldn't mind hitting. A boar causing an accident. And that accident saved his life because I guess I have no time to read this now. I guess that resulted in a visit to a Spanish hospital that then found the cancer, and then he said he never received a bill. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good. I mean, I had the same experience. It wasn't life-saving, but where I had to bring my infant son to get emergency treatment, and was seen immediately. And when I went to pay the bill, I asked, "Where do I pay? Where do I pay?" I said, "On my way out," and the woman said, "Pay." Pay. This was in Great Britain. Pay? You don't pay. I said, "But I'm not a citizen." No. She said, "You don't pay." Can you imagine? Just saying. Okay. Best story I saw was this Australian guy and his dog that they were 3 months at sea, floating around in the vastness of the Pacific, and 3 months. Finally got spotted and then saved. Lucky. Really lucky. So I was more concerned about the dog. I'm thinking, if a guy wants to do something stupid like this, he set off in a flimsy, I mean, it's not a catamaran, a small catamaran. He takes off somewhere in Mexico intending to sail his way to, I don't know, where was he going? Someplace in Micronesia. I mean, like thousands of miles. French Polynesia. And it's one thing to put yourself in that kind of risk, but to bring your dog. But then I read a little more, and it turns out the dog insisted. It was not his dog. The dog started hanging around with him when he was in Mexico getting ready to go. The dog was a stray. The dog decided to adopt him. So the dog would not stay out of his, just stayed with him. And he realized the dog had no place, so he took him. And that dog, we named Bella, helped him to survive too, because he was not alone. But that dog would not leave his side. He even tried. He tried in Mexico to find a home for it and came up empty. And he said, she just kept following me even when I'd get onto the boat. He says, she's such a beautiful animal. She's a lot braver than I am, that's for sure. So after 3 months, my God, oh yeah, you want to lose weight? Do that. He was really skinny. I think his beard outweighed his body, but that made me happy. The law closing in on Donald Trump and the others who would have overturned the election it gives me joy too. I can't believe how slowly this accountability has come. We're a long way from accountability, but that it's taken like 2.5 years to even have these charges start coming down. It's amazing. But I guess the people bringing those charges really want to make sure that they got the evidence to convict these people. And I just wish them Godspeed, with the emphasis on speed. Pick this up. So, I'm not going to talk a lot about, what, if you watch MSNBC or CNN, I assume they're talking about nonstop, right? Like, Jack Smith and the charges he'll probably be bringing and the odds of this and that. And what the Michigan is going after the false electors, which is wonderful. All of that is just wonderful, but I'm not going to talk about, I'm not a lawyer. I'm interested enough to read about it, but I have nothing to add other than I'm cheering from the sidelines and impatiently cheering from the sidelines. So back to the heat. Boy, are we lucky. I was saying to some people, I'm not going to complain. If I hear myself starting to complain about the weather here or something, I try to hear myself and then bite my tongue, because people are truly suffering and dying. I'm not truly suffering. Do you know, just last year with the heat in Europe, more than 61,000 people died because of heat. in Europe. That will probably be eclipsed this year because there's a lot of places in Europe that frankly never got, they're not built there like we are with, air conditioning all over the place. And people die. In Iran, southwestern coast of Iran, Sunday, the 104-degree temperature combined with the 65% humidity resulted in, with the heat index, resulted in that feeling like 152 degrees, which, by the way, is not capable of sustaining human life. Death Valley, Sunday was 128 degrees, and that's where the Death Valley is often the hottest place on Earth. Has gone up as high as 134 degrees. And it looks like that's going to be somewhat of a new normal. So you've got this unbelievable heat wave, and it's not just us. I mean, it's Asia, it's Europe, it's North America. It's winter below the, and when things flip around, I suppose the folks in the southern hemisphere are going to be feeling this. But when it comes to the air quality, because of the Canadian fires, I've been more interested in sort of what the heck? I mean, why hasn't that happened before? And says here that so far, just this year, 25 million acres of Canada has been burned. That's essentially, that's like as if the entire state of Kentucky was burned to the ground. And because we're just midway through the fire season, that is going to obviously be more so. So while we complain about the smoke from those fires, interfering with our daily lives, 120,000 people in Canada have been evacuated from their homes. The fire season started early and it's probably going to be ending late. There are almost 2,000 American firefighters that are up there trying, along with people from other countries, trying to get this under control. 2 Canadian firefighters have died in just the last week. And here's something I did not know. Canada has, on average, warmed twice as fast as the rest of the world in recent years. What? Yeah. Canada has the unhappy distinction of warming twice as fast as the rest of us. And this is largely due to the fact of that whole hunk of northern Canada that used to be filled with ice, snow, disappearing. And forecasters are saying the rest of the summer looks not good. Looks like higher than normal fire activity across much of Canada. And that means, more smoke, for us. I love the brevity of this guy named Mike Flanagan. He's a professor in Canada. I love this. He teaches at something called, he teaches in Kamloops, British Columbia, at Thompson Rivers University. And here's what he said. The recipe for a wildfire is simple. You need 3 ingredients. First, vegetation. We call that fuel. Second, ignition, which in Canada is usually people and lightning. And third, hot, dry, windy weather. There it is. That's the recipe. Unfortunately, all those ingredients are readily available. And speaking of that, the fact that Canada has actually experienced much more of the speed of their temperatures warming because of their loss of the sea ice and all that snow up north. Did you see the piece? I think this was like maybe earlier in the week or last week, that they're seeing something in the Arctic ecosystem, way up there. They're in Canada and stuff that they have never seen before. Worms. And the thing is, when worms show up where worms have never been seen, that concerns science. For one thing, once worms show up, you can't get rid of them. Apparently, worm eradication is a quixotic endeavor or a Sisyphean endeavor. You just can't do it. So the worms, it says here, are on the move, and scientists are getting nervous because worms, those little wrigglers, they change the ecosystem. And anytime something like that starts changing an ecosystem, it unleashes other things that they think science, they don't know the implication, but there will be. And I'll quote some more professors for you. We should be cautious about an organism that comes in and is going to be really hard to remove, if not impossible. We need to be really, 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 really careful studying what the effects of this will be. Because a worm can really upend, apparently, that ecosystem. And get this, once worms are established in the soil, they multiply like crazy. You know why? They don't need somebody from the opposite sex. That is correct. They're hermaphrodites. That's right. Them worms. And they also trigger other microbes that can unlock, I hate to say it, greenhouse gases and nitrogen that had been stored in the soil. But once the worms start, churning things up, which is what they do. And here's the last thing on the worms, just telling you. Scientists do agree, they're disagreeing about the significance of this, but they do agree on this. that the worm-related changes that they're seeing even thus far are definitely significant. They are happening very quickly in a region that is warming much faster than the rest of the planet, 2 times as fast, and a part of the planet that is home to really the world's last untouched ecosystem and some of its most vulnerable flora and fauna. And any changes they make are probably irreversible because earthworms are ineradicable. So there's that piece of information. I have a caller. Hello.
Hi, Lynn. It's Beth. And this is why you never tell a worm to go fuck itself.
Sure, they say. No problem.
Hey, going back to a couple of your earlier topics. One, I highly agree. Do not give books as a gift. You have to think of books like artwork, and you wouldn't buy artwork for someone else that you didn't know incredibly well.
You know, that's right. I was trying to think of what would it be like, and it's right. It's like giving somebody a painting and saying, here, you don't do that, or buying somebody a puppy out of the blue. Here, you know, right? Well, you just don't do it.
Correct, because I have to tell you, I'm one of those people. I always have these friends saying, "Oh, I'm going to get this book," and I would tell them, "Look, I'm not reading to me is not a pleasurable thing, and it never has been. It's just for me, it's a utilitarian thing. It's very frustrating for me." So when I'd have these people saying, and then one friend actually just got me the book, and I said, "Look," I gave it right back to him. I said, "I'm not. If you want to go have a coffee and discuss the subject matter or something like that, fine, but that isn't so. Thank you for mentioning that for those of us that hate getting books as gifts."
Okay. All right.
2.
I want to say this, though. Wait, let me say this. Mm-hmm. I have gotten books as gifts that I've really enjoyed. But yes, I love books.
Right. You're a voracious reader, and it's an escape for you. For me, trying to sit down and read a book for pleasure is just the opposite.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So about the medical thing, I have to tell you, when I first moved to West Virginia, I was really concerned I'm going to find a primary care physician, and especially a female, in this area. And I found one, and she was Muslim, and she wore the hijab. And I remember when first meeting her, I'm like, do you have a problem treating someone who is gay? And she said, do you have a problem with having a doctor that's Muslim? And I said, no. I said, salam alaikum. And we had this wonderful relationship. And I remember this one day she came in, I was going to see her, and this was before Trump got elected, FYI. But she was from Saudi Arabia. And you could just tell she wasn't her normal self. And I felt like we had this great conversation. And she said the reason she got into medicine was to help people. She wanted to get to know people and help people. She said, I'm a scientist. I'm a horrible businesswoman, but I'm being forced to treat this like a business, and I just can't do it. And then I had seen her before the 2016 election, and she said, if he gets elected, I cannot morally stay here. She said, I just can't. And sure enough, I lost my primary care physician because Trump got elected. She went back to Saudi Arabia.
But I want to know, how can she morally stay in Saudi Arabia? How did she even get educated like that as a doctor in Saudi Arabia? That's fascinating.
Right. She didn't. Yeah, I think she wound up in Britain first, and then wound up in the U.S. medical system. But that was her thing. So then it took me some time to try to find another female primary care physician that actually cared about medicine. Got one. And wouldn't you know it, when Trump was up for election, and she was German, she goes, she said, if Trump gets elected, I'm going to leave too. And I said to her, I go, for crying out loud, this guy's going to cost me 2 primary care physicians.
You're kidding.
No, I am not. And thank God, Biden got in. And so the time we saw her after the election, I said, well, we were happy Biden won, and we were happy we were keeping you as our doctor.
God.
But the same thing. It's the whole thing. You know, Lynn, I dealt last year. My dad was horribly ill and passed away, and dealing with, you know, assisted care living and the whole medical system, which we'd kind of dealt with him my entire life, but never saw such a decline. And I'm going to say in the Pittsburgh area as that particular time. And the whole thing I kept thinking is, you know, you have this political divide. There's a divide. If there was an issue that no one could say is a red issue, a blue issue, a conservative, a this, a that, bring up nursing homes. Just do that. Because the more people I talk to who are Trump lovers to whatever, you know what? The thing of nursing homes and the fact that it's these for-profit companies that manage these places, you know, because their pay is crap, don't get the people who care. They overburden these people. And people that, you know, let's say they have a knee replacement and they can't go home, you know, you have to go to these facilities then for care. If some politician wanted to win and take the red, blue out of it, just stick with that issue. And I think especially in middle America, it would play incredibly well.
Well, I think you're right about that. That would be a unifying issue. If
it's something that someone could bring up, but you know, the fact that, I mean, look with even just within Pittsburgh. I mean, the issue we had between UPMC and Allegheny Health Network for years. You know, all you had to do was have the governor say, you know what, delicense both of them at this point. Until they come to the table and talk, delicense both of them. But because of the political pressure, you know, thank goodness it was finally Shapiro that came in and said, look, enough of this already. This is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But yes, it is most concerning that you have hedge funds buying these practices. What you were saying up in Minnesota, what you're seeing even in smaller areas like mine where they are targeting those types of hospitals.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. And also what you're hearing, too, is within the pharmaceutical industry, these very small pharmaceutical, you know, they're not the giants, but these very small pharmaceutical companies that have been bought up by these hedge funds. And because they see there's a market of maybe something it's been around forever. Big companies don't want to make it because you can't make the money off of it. You know, you can't make 30 million off of it. You might only make 5 million, so let's just not make it anymore. So these groups are now picking that stuff up. But the fear is when these little companies start making it, and they're the only ones now making it, are they going to increase the prices off these drugs that have been around a long time? And that's another thing, you know, I saw and was hearing about, just as an FYI out there.
Okay, 2 things quickly. I want to just pick your brain because you're the person we know who's in the movie making industry and also in West Virginia. 1, do you think Manchin's going to run on that no labels ticket?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I think he loses either way. The only way he wins in are you talking about the Senate race? Or
I don't even see him. I don't see him taking on. I see him thinking that justice is going to take him down. He's going to lose his Senate seat, so he might as well run in this third-party presidential ticket.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that doing, and I think he would.
Where
do
he
that
loses again, but you're right.
He will lose horribly, but think of it this way: it's kind of like a Chris Christie running in the Republican side. Who's funding him? Why are they funding him? Just to be, you know, the cattle prod to Trump. Somebody, I'm sure, is doing the same thing with Manchin, you know, causing him to run. I mean, first of all, if he can't even win his own state, what do you think? I mean, you're kind of like Kristen Sinema out there. I mean, I think people have more respect for Liz Cheney as an independent than Joe Manchin.
Okay, so then my other thing is you think this strike is going to be a long strike? I don't see these two guys coming together.
Not Lynn. This is beyond ridiculous. I was supposed to start a show May 24th, And on a personal side, it impacts my healthcare insurance and my wife's healthcare insurance greatly, because when we don't work, you don't accumulate time towards your healthcare. And it is someone who deals on the contract side and knows what all these people make. It absolutely pisses me off that the writers are asking for more. That the actors are now. Granted, the day players, I get it. They should get some more. The artificial intelligence stuff, 100% get both of those. But from what I'm hearing from friends in Los Angeles, that's the AI, they're just holding out. They know. I think the studios know that's not something they're gonna. That's not going to be in this contract thing. It's just going to be put in there. No artificial intelligence done. This all has to do about the streaming services, about residuals, and people making a ton of money. And it's killing the rank and file in this industry right now because there's so little filming. I mean,
but the vast majority, tell me this, the vast majority of the screenwriters and the actors are not these stars. They're not the celebrities. The vast majority are not.
No, right? Agreed. I mean, not everybody's making the big. And again, that's what I'm saying. For the day players, for those that just show up and have a cameo role, I agree. Their money should be bumped up. And the fringe thing on that. I mean, the residual thing on those guys that just kind of show up and, they're going to get a check for $1.08 every time it shows up on TNT. Okay, so be it. But for the writers, I have to say, Lynn, the fact that they're asking for more writers in this room, in the writing rooms, they already got a ton of writers. And I'm telling you, those writers' rooms are old boy, Ivy League guys, period. And they are not hurting. I mean, you might hear what their quote unquote wages are, but their scale, and then you see what these guys actually make, two different things. They're making double to triple over scale. So the writers, again, and the thing is, someone said to me, you never saw a writer die in the act of filmmaking or film writing. And it's so true. I mean, every year you hear of someone perishing, and not just the poor director of photography that was shot on the film set, but people who are actually trying to make an explosion work, or God forbid, some condor rolls, or, I mean, you hear about it so much where people are severely injured. And these are the people who make the least, the absolute least.
Always.
Yeah.
That's right.
And here's the other thing I always love about unions. The group that covers all kind of the rank and file folks is called IATSE.
Right.
And they call themselves a union. They are a union. The groups that make the most money, the Directors Guild, the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild. So that sums it up. But like I said, that's all I can give you on that. I think the last I'm hearing is probably September, that maybe there might be, because that's really when content, I mean, series start filming, and TV series that show up in October start filming in July. Well, that's not happening.
Well, we'll see. So thank you so much. You're always good to hear your point of view, and I hope you can get back to work soon. I hope so.
Me too. So thank you again, Lynn.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. I just want to catch up here. We only got a minute left. I got some emails I want to get in here. Gigi writes, just wanted to chime in on books as gifts. My family and my friends all enjoy getting and giving books as presents. Okay. It's so interesting to me to hear the viewpoint of someone who thinks books are not good to give as gifts. I admit I have gotten some books as gifts that have given me pause. One that stays in my mind is The Pilot's Wife. Oh, I read that by Anita Shreve. The plot revolves around a woman whose husband, a pilot, was involved in a crash with suggestions of him having been involved in a terrorist plot and perhaps an affair. The funny part of this is that it was given to me by my partner, who happens to be a pilot. I read the book and then asked him why he chose that book. He's not a reader of fiction. He chose it because it was very popular at the time and everyone was talking about it. He knew nothing of the plot. He thought it was funny that it was titled The Pilot's Wife. So, of course, he gave it to you. I can see where you might want to be careful of the books you give as gifts. Always enjoy the show. Enjoy your day. I do remember reading that book. I can't remember much about it, but I thought it was really good. I remember thinking it was a good book. The Pilot's Wife. Oops. And then I have one. I can see where it's going from. Wait a minute. Okay. From Ray, who I know when Susan was on yesterday, he said something about like, God, you guys, he was trying to lift up the conversation. And this is from Ray. Lynn, I'm worried about you. The show has become a daily dose of doom. If it's any comfort, one day the sun will eat the earth and all our efforts will be shown as vanity. Well, Ray, that's a great comfort to me. Ray, I know, but it's been doom for years, and I traffic in the news. And the news is generally, not great, which is why I go out of my way to find stuff. I do. I just haven't been very successful lately. And I would admit that the sort of catastrophic stuff, the never seen before stuff, does keep popping up. We're living in a very consequential time. I suppose they always are. And very interesting time. And reminded of that Chinese curse. You live in interesting times. All right. So we are, Ray, sorry if I'm bringing you down. I want you to know I'm not depressed. I mean, any more than I ever am, but I'm enjoying my life. So you guys should do the same, but I just don't like to be in denial. You can still see things as they are and let yourself have fun, can't you? It's called bifurcation or something, or schizophrenia. I don't know. I'm out of here.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.